over the years, one of the most exciting subjects for me has been biblical studies. And one of the most, or the most revolutionary discovery within the field of biblical study is that mundane idea that the Bible is not a book. You see, many people are still believing that the Bible is a book. However, the Bible is not a book. The Bible is a collection of 66 books written by a number of different authors over a long period of time, many hundred years, to convey different meaning, different theme, different intent, for example. Secondly, the Bible is not a collection of historical books or books intended to convey history as occurred in the past. The Bible is a theological work. What do I mean by that? The Bible's purpose, or the purpose of the biblical authors, are to use myths and legend, and of course historical events as well, to add credibility to their faith. So when we want to understand events within that cultural context, it's important for us to use, of course, the Bible, because of course it contains a number of datas and stories which are very crucial to understanding the emergence of Judaism and the Jewish people. But also importantly is to use secular materials as well, because of course the Jewish people existed in a literal time period amongst other nations that existed at the same time. Now, when we look at the events occurring today, namely the war in Iran between the State of Israel, America, and Iran, it really brings to mind that we as humans and as states, we choose who to love and who to despise. For the state of Iran, for example, is really the descendant of the great Persian Empire. And the Persian Empire has always been very, very good and supportive to the people of Israel. Whereas the Europeans have always been very oppressive to the people of Israel. Let us do a deeper dive into the emergence of the State of Israel. Now, the State of Israel emerged around 1500 to 1500 BCE to about 1200 BCE, and it lasted on up until about 586 BCE. Now, after Solomon, its great conqueror was David. Saul first, then David, and Solomon. But after Solomon's death in around 930, Israel, as a united country, became divided into a northern and southern tribes. Now, the northern tribes consisted of 10 tribes, right? While the southern consisted of two tribes, the tribes of Judah and the tribe of Benjamin, right? Now, somewhere within 729, 730 BCE, the northern tribes were conquered by the Assyrians, whereas somewhere within 600 BCE, the southern tribes were conquered by Babylon. Now, when Babylon conquered Israel, Israel was entirely destroyed. Its temple was demolished entirely. Now, central and very crucial to the life of the Jewish people has always been their temple. Their rituals, their worship really, and their priesthood really centered there in their temple. Now, somewhere in 539, the Persian Empire came into existence under the leadership of that great Persian king called Cyrus the Great. The Great. Now, after Cyrus the Great defeated Babylon, he really respected and liked the Jewish people. He allowed them to return home to Jerusalem to reconstruct their temple. In fact, Cyrus the Great used his own gold in the construction of the second temple. The first one having been destroyed by Babylon, and this second one now having destroyed. Second one now being rebuilt by Cyrus the Great. In fact, many Persian intermarried with the Jewish people. We may have known of this famous story between Esther and the Persian king, of course. He was very, very, very loved, are in love with the Jewish people. And it's very important for us to understand that the Jewish people have always evoked curiosity, amazement, and contempt by other powers. Why? Because they're different. These people, people having started out as polytheistic as everybody else in Canaan, eventually emerged or evolved into a very strong and fierce monotheistic civilization. So, everybody around them was very, very curious as to, how these people, are so passionate and certain about the worship of their God. And one of those group that was amazed by this Jewish monotheism was Cyrus the Great. Now, after that, the Greek conquered Persia, and of course became that dominant world power or dominant superpower. Now, under the Greek, the Jewish people hasn't managed to enjoy the same kind of luxury and support from those Greek rulership. There was only one time during that period, I think around about 200 BC, under the leadership of the Maccabee family. The Maccabee family fought the Greek, and for a brief time, achieve some amount of freedom. After the Greek came the Romans as the main superpower, who occupied the entire Judea and the Jewish people. Now the Romans were very, very oppressive, very suspicious of who the Jewish people were. And there started, or the continuation of a series of oppression by the European people. Christ was born somewhere in 4 BCE to around CE 4, somewhere there. Christ was born. He wasn't necessarily a threat to the political establishment of Rome. He was what we call a religious reformer. He was a threat to the values of the Jewish culture, the Jewish religion, but not a threat to Roman politics. After Christ's death, in CE 30, Christ died. Christianity begins to emerge. The Jews, again, Christian emerged. It was a very small underground movement. The dominant religion in Judea continued to be Judaism, which wasn't a peaceful religion, and it is not today a peaceful religion. They revolted against the Romans in 700 CE. Rome completely sacked Jerusalem, destroyed again the temple, that was built by the Persian. The Jewish people were scattered around Europe, and everywhere they went, they were oppressed. Every corner of Europe, they were oppressed. The very word ghetto came from that slum whereby Jewish people were forced to exist in on the continent of Europe. Many Jewish people were forced to convert or suffer death when they didn't. Those who didn't convert it were oppressed. Cool? They were labeled the god or the killer of their gods. All kind of tabooed, established to kind of keep them in their place. Now, a few Jewish people still existed or still lived in Palestine. The rise of the Ottoman Empire, Islam emerged around about 700 CE. They start the expansion. So a lot of Muslims were living on what we call Palestine or Israel now, right? And they were living with a number of Jewish people. Now, during the Crusade, we may have heard that song "Onward Christian Soldiers Marching on to War." It was a literal march, a literal war, with literal soldiers as well. And as they march to Jerusalem with the aim of taking back Jerusalem out of the hands of the heathen, as they define or describe the Muslims at that point, they kill and destroy everything in their way. When they went to Jerusalem, they were killing both Muslim and Jews. In fact, the Muslim at the time joined partnership with the Jews to fight the Europeans. Now, fast forward today, it is the Muslims who the Jews are hating and not the European. Remember, the oppression of the Jewish people on the continent of Europe culminated in the killing by the Germans of over 6 million Jews. Right? There is no record in history of that mass or ending close to a mass killing by the Muslim. But at this point, Iran, that set of people who have granted freedom to the Jews, who have rebuilt their temple after the Babylonians have destroyed it, out of their own gold, is now the enemy of the Jew, and not the Americans, not the European. Why? Because today Iran is the only nation in the Middle East that poses a threat to that inhumane expansion and destruction of Israel's neighbors.